Holiday time with our immediate families, cozying up at home. But as moms, how can we consciously create a nurturing home life, pandemic and beyond?
You know, there are very different coronavirus experiences happening for those of us who have food on our table, who are able to pay our rent or our mortgage, than for those who don't know how their basic needs are going to be met.
Life stresses are heightened during this pandemic time, so children have greater needs than usual. What can moms do?
We never want to contribute to anybody else's sense of chaos. What we want to be is kind of the calm, right? But when you talk about like how to restore peace in the home, it's a lot about being pono inside yourself first.
We talk about many ways to help our family within the home, and part of that is looking outside of ourselves.
To think like Indigenous people, like Native Hawaiians, to think like Native Americans, to think in that multi-generational way that isn't just about the here and now, this kind of extractive, what can I get, but to think more in what can I give.
Aloha mamas, and welcome to the CoronaMama Zoom Room. This show is brought to you by the Maui Mama magazine. And we are here for you, the Maui Mama, to help you to connect and express and share all those things that are on our minds during this pandemic time. Our motto is #share aloha, not corona. I'm Angeline Longshore, and today we're talking about creating a nurturing home during this pandemic and beyond, because it's Christmas time, and I think about coziness and nurturing, and if you don't have that in your home, then we're going to talk about how you can create that in your home. And also, it's Christmas week, so there's a lot of concerns by our keiki and children across this nation about Santa not being able to come to our homes because of the coronavirus. And so fortunately, we had our very great Dr. Fauci, the nation's leading disease expert, to help us out with this one. I saw this tweet on the CNN Twitter feed that he announced on a Sesame Street CNN town hall that he went to the North Pole and he took care of Santa. He vaccinated him himself, measured his immunity, and Santa is good to go. Thank you so much, Dr. Fauci. We really needed help on this one. Perfect. All right. And a quick reminder, I know we're going to be gathering, and I know we all have pandemic fatigue. I certainly do, for sure. But the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency is strongly urging us to avoid gatherings of 5 or more, which means I know in Thanksgiving time, it was 10 or less. Now it is 4 or less. They're saying there should only be 4 people around your holiday table this year, besides just immediate family members. And we need to stay in our bubbles, right? And that's because there are cases surging across the country, and in the state of Hawaii, 200 cases per day, which is higher. It just seems like it's getting higher and higher. So they just want us to take precautions, which makes sense, right? Okay, and now for some fun things later on in the show. We're going to talk about some last minute Christmas food ideas, because I know for me, I'm like, just my family. So, I'm not even going to make a big plan, but now I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? So I have some great last minute Christmas food ideas for you at the end of the show. And also, because we're going to be at home, I have a virtual experience for entertainment right from your home. So later on, we'll talk about that. Okay, and now for our Actions of Aloha segment. It's a free virtual holiday activity for your keiki, because they're going to be home during this holiday break, right? So it's called the Hui Kids. The Hui noʻeau Visual Arts Center created a free online learning channel where kids can learn remotely with those Hui teaching artists that they have known to love, they've gotten to know. But because of this distance time, they haven't had access to them. So the Hui has lessons that will be released twice weekly, which will combine short lessons with art fundamentals, as well as longer visual art lessons. and will be requiring only materials that you probably already have at home, so it's not expensive stuff. So visit huinoʻeau.com, Hui Kids, for more information on that. And mahalos to the Hui and the County of Maui Office of Economic Development for donating to this program to make it happen. Thank you so much. Okay, now for our main segment on creating a nurturing home during these pandemic times. We have Mari Fitzsimons, and she says she feels so blessed to serve Queen Liliuokalani Trust in nurturing families. So let's bring her into the Zoom room. Aloha, Mari. Welcome to the CoronaMama Zoom room.
Thank you, Angeline. Thanks for having me.
So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do and about your family?
Perfect. So my name is Mari Fitzsimons, and I am a social worker. I worked on at Liliuokalani Trust with families, doing family strengthening in all kinds of different ways. My own family, my husband is Rich. We've been together for 27 years. He is the love of my life. We're very happily married. We have 2 children that we gave birth to. We've got Luan, who is 21, and we've got Patrick, who's 20. And then we've, for many years, had the bonus of additional kids at home here with us. So friends of our children who've stayed with us. And so now at home, we have Sage and Cass and little baby Oliver too.
Well, that's perfect, because I really wanted to have you on to talk about how to create the vibe in the home, a nurturing, warm, we're in the Christmas week, and normally in this time, there's a little franticness normally, but usually it's just warm and fuzzy. And now that we're in the pandemic, I know that it's not so much that way for a lot of families. It's been really hard. I've seen in the Maui Mommies groups where the distance learning thing, the being crammed together, not having all the activities that we normally have, the freedom to just go around and be and do and shop. And so we're really in the home a lot, but it may not be as peaceful or the vibe that we really want. So, just knowing you, I've known you for a long time, and I know that the work that you do is the kind of work that you help a lot of families. So that's why I wanted to talk to you about how we can create this home life that really feels good. And I don't think that we talked about what it is that you actually do. So maybe you can let us know what that is.
Yeah. So I work with Liliuokalani Trust, and I work as a social worker, direct service specialist. So with families, a lot of family strengthening, a lot of work just helping families find peace with each other. One of my favorite programs that we have there at the moment is called Ho'opono, and it's all about restoring family harmony and family peace. And one of our just most beautiful mentors in all of that work is Auntie Lynette Paglinawan, who is it's hard to even put into words what a treasure she is. She is a real living treasure. She's in her 80s, and yet she continues to teach. She teaches at University of Hawaii, West Oahu. And she also teaches all of us within Liliuokalani Trust too about ancient Hawaiian methods, Native Hawaiian methods of bringing harmony back home. But when you talk about like how to restore peace in the home, or how to make it more peaceful at home, the first thing that comes to my mind are her words, which are really know thyself. So to find that peace inside yourself first. She talks a lot about being pono, inside yourself first. That you can never create harmony with anybody else really until you are right inside yourself. And then every interaction you're having from there comes from kind of a grounded place, a sort of more stable, more nurturing place. So I think very often we're trying to fix other people in our family or in our world or in our community, when really the work really has to start here, whether you're a parent or a child. The relational work starts with yourself. Because if you're out of balance, then everything that you do is going to be out of balance, right? But if you're in balance, and Auntie Lynette talks about the 3 picos, so our piko po'o, our head, which connects to our ancestors and to the gods, to the realms that are kind of bigger than us, right? And then our piko na'au, which is around our belly button, but which connects to the here and now, to the present moment, to today, to our intuition. And then our piko ma'i, which is our genitals, which connect to the future and all future generations. We're aligned in those three picos with the ancestors, the gods, with all of that realm, with our present here and now, our intuition, and with thinking about the future and how to care for, I think of the future of the earth, the future of the sky, the future of, I think about all the generations that'll come after us. So to really be balanced in every moment, all of that actually does need to be balanced.
I think that, even though there are a lot of issues that have come about because of the pandemic, one of the wonderful silver linings and opportunities that I've noticed with a lot of moms in the mommies groups talking about is that they actually feel closer and more connected to the home, because there was that time when we all had to sort of not necessarily lock down, but really safer at home time. And we had to stop this treadmill that we were on, pretty much our outer world, and thinking about the outer world and going and doing. And in that pause, we sort of had to focus inward. We had to focus on not just our families, but it gave us a moment to not be thinking about outward. So by default, we were thinking about what was going on inside. And I think that a lot of parents, moms, maybe didn't necessarily put their finger on it in the way that you talked about it, which is that inner life, so that awareness maybe was there for a moment, but we can carry that out. And I think what I want to know from you is, how do we take that, work on that, and then demonstrate that or have that expressed into our home, so that our children and our husband and our extended family, anybody who comes into our home, feels that and feels nourished by it? Because I know your children are, like you said, that rootedness, are deeply rooted in who they are. And that comes from you. That comes from the way that your home is, the vibe, the rituals, the routines, the things that you put in place from this intention that's in here that you talked about. So can you describe maybe what you do, or what you might have advice about how to do that?
Well, and again, it comes back to kind of what are the rituals that I do for me so that I can be a good mama to my kids, right? Or be a good mama to myself. Because I think a lot of that, our internal mother is very important. Or we have our mothering that we do for our children, but how do we mother ourselves? How do we nurture our own selves? And I think, staying connected to a spiritual power that's bigger than each one of us is really important. And I don't think that has to be a religion or religious God, but just whatever it is that makes the sun rise and set, whatever it is that gives life and takes life, right? What is it that makes the flowers bloom? What is it that makes the plumeria tree smell so beautiful, right? So I think when we can be filled by that as often as possible, then we're kind of leaning into something bigger than us to mother us, right? So there's the internal mother, but there's also the external holding of all of that that's so much bigger than we are. Now, for me, I find that when I'm barefoot in the sand, or when I dive underneath the waves and open my eyes, right, in the ocean, that color for me has all of that. Or when I look out at the mountains and the sky, when I plant a seed and watch it, grow, like emerge above the soil, that's where I get filled with awe, right? And the awe and the magic of life itself, and of, we could call it God, keakua. I really like the Hawaiian term keakua. For me, that just opens up a bigger godly image for me than maybe the God that I grew up with, which was a Catholic God. But just when we can be inspired and in gratitude for that which is always giving, right? Even in this time of restriction or shortage or restriction of movements, the sun still rises every single day, right? The sun is not concerned about coronavirus. The stars still come out at night, right? the flowers still bloom. So I think when we can remain connected to those kind of constants and those sources of everyday magic, that it enables us to perhaps be more inspired in how we interact with our children. Yeah. Because when we think it's just us and we have to provide everything for our children, we're never going to be enough, right? We're just not. We can't. We never could. We're very interdependent, yeah. And we're very, like, we are filled by something that's bigger than us. So I think when we remember that, then we don't get quite as empty, because we don't think that we have to give all of ourselves over to the nurturing of others. When we actually are sort of filled by that spiritual force, or filled by that light that is always coming through, then that's the greatest source for our children, yeah. So what do we do to stay connected to that light? What do we do to stay connected to that ever-giving force that's there? Because whatever that is for each one of us, that's how our children are going to learn to connect with it too, yeah. Some people find it in surfing. Some people find it when they work out. Some people find it in prayer. Some people find it in the rain. There's no right or wrong way to find it, but when you allow yourself to be replenished with that, meditation, mindfulness are great ways to be restored too. So, and when we do that, there's more of us there's more to share with our kids and with each other.
What I really like about what you're saying is that I think it's addressing this feeling that a lot of moms have of it's all on us. And we are the individual person that is the one who's supposed to make it all happen. And I see it as, when I think about the modern mom that's out there today, you know, she's got all these things, all these plates that she's spinning like a circus clown. And these are her things, her jobs. And sometimes she'll say, oh, honey, spin this plate for me. I got to go do these things. But we have this feeling like we have to keep it all going and it's all on us. And if we don't keep those plates going, they're going to crash and our family is going to be devastated by these things. And what I love about what you were saying is that it really is just a shift of perspective and awareness of leaning into that larger source. With young children, is there a different need right now?
You know, the younger the child, the more, well, they need a lot of touch, okay? So young children need a lot of holding, a lot of massage, a lot of connection. So I think it's really important for, you know, in this kind of no-touch COVID time, that the parent remember that a lot of their needs are met through that physical contact. I mean, of course, there's the rhythmic meals, like make everything as predictable as you can, you know, have nurturing bedtime routines, especially if you've got smaller children, nurturing mealtime routines, nurturing cleanup routines. Try and embed those into your day. I think it's Kim Jong-un says that like rhythm and routine is like a third parent because it's so helpful.
I've experienced that because I set a lot of routines based on Kim Jong-un's book. And I felt like everything became so easy. So moms, if you're wondering what we're talking about, it's when things are predictable, then the child tends to fall in line with that predictability. So you don't have to be yelling out there, do your da-da-da, or, you know, whatever it is at the moment, because they already know, because it's like clockwork that it happens. And I found that to be such a relief where I would sing a song for every transition, I would make up a song and they would wash their hands, scrub them clean. I used to sing that when they were young. And so every time they would come into the house, I would start singing the song and they would just walk right up to the sink, wash their hands. And then there was a bath time song. So they would, as soon as they heard the song, their little feet would start walking toward the bathtub. And at the same time, every day, which makes it less of a stressor for the mom. You know, I think that is a picture that I can see that if I hadn't done those things, life would be so much more complicated and so much more stressful and yelling and convincing and trying to get them to do things.
I think it's really nice for, if you're parenting with someone else, to have a date night, if you can, even if that, or a date day, even if that's a little walk in the forest or a jump in the ocean. So.
Yeah, connecting with your spouse, I think, is one of those sort of last things that a lot of times we put to the side. It's like all the tasks. Okay, I have these things. But then when you do, I know when I connect with Aaron and we go somewhere without the children, even if it's during the day, like you said, and we end up laughing about things. And I think just that shared time is like a little spring in our step. It's like we just feel more connected, and that helps our entire family to thrive. Like when we come home and we're kind of in the same energy level vibe, and then the kids are like, oh, they see that happiness that we have together between me and Aaron, and they're like, and then they feel more secure. So then that changes the entire vibe of the home, because I think there's just a little spark that is alive between the two, parents, that it's like, they're like, oh, there's love.
I mean, that is spiritual food for the kids right there, because you think about it, right? For you and Aaron, like, that's what made your two children. For Rich and I, that's what made our children, right? So when that love and that spark is there, that's the spark that ignited them, right? That's the spark that brought them into being. So that is really nourishing for the family. But I do want to say just now, for anybody who's a single parent, it's equally true that your kind of love for yourself and then your love and bond with your children has all of that power and all that vibration too. So I don't want any single parents or divorced parents to feel like they're somehow less than if they don't have that partner bond right now too. And that bond just looks different if it's between you and the children. It's I think of it like triangles or squares or pentagons or hexagons, depending on the size of your family. But just those connections, those bonds with the children are so, so powerful. And the time spent together with that loving vibration is so, so, so powerful. So I think it's really important that the parent remember that a lot of their needs are met through that physical contact, that physical getting down on the floor and playing with them. So just to remember that that's a lot of their love language when they're little children. There's a lot of connection. And again, the rhythm that we talked about before too.
Yeah, and I think about getting on the floor, which I know makes a huge difference. Sitting on the floor, getting into their world, is a demonstrative way for them to feel like you are fully interested and immersed in whatever they're doing. And then I did that with my children. And then as they got older, I've seen that figuratively sitting down on the floor is important and makes them feel that connection. So if they're in front of a video game, I will sit down and just watch for a while. And then they'll start talking to me about what's happening in that world and what they're building and how they've built it and things like that, say with Minecraft, and what it means to them, and that they have a friend who built this whole other world that let me show you where this friend lives and how they built their world, and look how cool that is. And those small things, I think, are the connectors that really carry very far in a child, whatever age, to sit in their world.
Yeah, it's so true, Angeline, because so often our children are having to operate in an adult-centered world. So when we do stop and pause and show up for them in their world, it is such an act of love for them to feel seen and loved and met in their realm.
Yeah, and then I'm thinking about if you have a spouse, in the same way, I'm sure you've heard of John Gottman, who talks about the bid. It's like really in the same way, figuratively sitting on the floor with your husband and immersing in his world too, and really paying that, not just a compliment, but noticing what they're doing, and what gives them joy about it. And another thing I found is conspiring with my husband on things where we have been working on remodeling our house. And that is not peaceful for a lot of people, but I think that for us, it's just a form of conspiring in some way where we can be on the same side working toward a certain goal.
It is that shared journey and that shared excitement and that shared caring about each other's journey. Yeah. And it's another level of mindfulness, right? We talked a little earlier about mindfulness, and it's like mindfulness to yourself, mindfulness to what's going on with your partner, mindfulness to what's going on with your children. So just that level of presence and listening are inherently healing.
I just read a study recently, and I mentioned on the last show, where children are, a third of them are more anxious, depressed, even suicidal, and that we can't necessarily always see that, because with the younger ones, maybe it's behavioral and we see some outward behavior we think is just something that needs to be disciplined. And then with the older ones, it could be outward behavior, or it could be inward, where they just sort of hide what they're feeling. And so you're saying that if we have this way of plugging into our source and being available, then there's maybe another step that we need to do to really be aware.
Yeah, very definitely, and try to keep the communication with them as open as possible, so that our kids know they can come to us with anything, no matter what's going on with them, that we want to hear about it, that we care about them. And that we won't judge them. That's super important, that they know that we want to hear what's going on for them. Just look out for maybe really changed behavior in your child. And I would say, friendships are incredibly important. Like, do what you can to facilitate their continued ability to connect with their friends, even if it's happening in non-traditional ways. Friends are very, very important to children, especially like our teenagers. So really help them to maintain those friendships. Really have family discussions about feelings. I think emotional literacy is really, really important for kids to know that it's okay to talk about feeling sad or angry or scared or happy, and really help educate them that feelings will come and go when we allow them to run their course. I think as parents, it's a really great time to take something like a parenting class. There are lots of great parenting classes available online. There's a wonderful mindful forgiveness program available right now for Hawaii residents for free. So if you look up mindful forgiveness, it's funded, I think, by State of Hawaii at the moment. What's your child interested in? What fills them up? What makes them feel most like themselves? How can you support those things that make them feel vibrant and alive? And then to go out of our way to make those things happen. Maybe it's surfing, maybe it's biking in the forest. Really, really great time to sing, to play musical instruments, to plant a garden. So just find what it is that your child loves, support them in that. Make sure they can talk to you. And if you feel they need another layer of support, don't be afraid to reach out for mental health support.
Is there anything else that you would say that to create that vibe in the home, or the nurturing aspect for our families?
Just love your kids, love them for who they are and the uniqueness that they bring to the world. If you have a partner, love your partner that same way. Sometimes we have our idea of who we want them to be, right? But we want to love them for who they are and who they are right now. And that's what really allows them to evolve into their next stage of who they're becoming too, yeah. And I would just say be very, very gentle and kind. Kindness, I'm sure you've read the book, The Four Agreements, Angeline. Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, be kind. Always do your best. Be impeccable with your word. and don't take anything personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like those four agreements are just great ones to live by in any home. So that's a book I love for parents. I'd say stay connected, deeply, deeply connected to your child. And even if they're in maybe those teenage phases where they're individuating and they may go off and not be as communicative as they used to be, make sure that your love is a constant, that your love and your availability for them is a constant, even as they go and individuate and they're learning who they are becoming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about the families that maybe don't have as, I don't know, I think of it as a luxury of being able to spend the time with their kids and to think about what extracurricular or hobbies they can do, because there are some families that are working still so many jobs, or they're scrambling because they're losing their job and they're trying to get a job. And I know that you see a lot of that. And how do you help families who are in these situations, or what situations are some families in that maybe you can shed light on how they can deal with things?
There is a lot of hardship in our community right now. There are a lot of families that are homeless. There are a lot of families who don't have enough food. And something I think we should all think about at this time is, if we have more than we need, this is the time to support the Maui Food Bank, to support Maui Family Support Services, to make donations to Kahaliakaʻola, the shelter. We have a lot of families in need right now. So I think for those families to get the help that they can get from Department of Human Services, from SNAP, so to get food stamps, any kind of housing support they can get, to really connect with resources. They can dial 211 as well to find out what resources are available in our community. Maui Economic Opportunity. Those are all places to go for assistance. And I think for parents that are working multiple jobs, that there is that shortage of time, just not to beat themselves up, that everybody is doing the best they can. This is not a time to pull ourselves down. This is a time to lift each other up and to lift ourselves up. And, just I think for parents to know that we're all doing the best we can at this time. I think it's just one breath at a time, one moment at a time, right? It's just one breath at a time. I think it's harder to take that breath and take that pause when you don't know how your children are going to be fed. Yeah. And I think this is where, Angeline, we got to all think about like how we vote and who we elect into positions of power, and what are we doing to uplift everybody. Because right now we have this incredible disparity in our community of folks who have more than they need and folks who don't have their basic needs met. So I think that it's always important that we all try and uplift our entire community when we think about who do we elect into positions of power, and what are they going to do for the folks who have the least. Yeah.
It really is a time of we're realizing we're interdependent, and that independent nature really doesn't serve us. So I know that you have family and everybody, in your home. So where are you zooming off to now?
I'm going to be zooming off to the forest. So one of my weekly, there's something else I could share with you. Self-care, again, so important. For me, I have a rhythmic every Sunday 1 o'clock walk in the forest with some of my best friends. And then I have weekly swim dates, same day, a little bit of that rhythm we talked about that I can look forward to. Don't have to reinvent it every week. Some of my best friends that I swim with every week too, on Tuesdays, on Fridays, my Sunday hike, little online yoga twice a week. So those are the things that just fill me up. For me, if I can get time in the forest with friends, so I get the nature, I get the smell of the trees, get that special time communicating and talking and listening with friends. So it just fills a lot of my buckets at one time. So
I love that. You have something to look forward to every week. It kind of like is that spark in your week. It's like, oh, I've got this and this and this, and every week it's there. It's so great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Mari. This has been so beautiful, and just so many thoughts that I think we can take and really put with intention into our home. So thank you.
And thank you, Angeline. You're a treasure. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this for the community, putting out your thoughts every week and your little ideas and interviews. And I appreciate you.
Okay, now for some holiday fun. Okay, so this is really cool because I know a lot of you will be home. And so this is something that you can do from the comfort of your own home. Pro Arts is offering a very virtual holiday special featuring performances by local entertainers. They're making it a pay what you can kind of show, so it can be affordable to anyone who wants to watch. The production is made possible through the generosity of Ceramic Tile Plus and one of the CoronaMama sponsors, Akaku Community Media. And now for those last minute food ideas, Christmas food ideas, holiday food ideas. And from my family to yours, have a very Merry Christmas. Take care, stay safe, and be well. Aloha.